Hi guys, welcome back to MK Sportscars, and we're on with the RX-5 build. Now, if you've been subscribing, you would have seen some of the transformations that this has gone through and the different stages. The manual is there as a guide, and we're just doing a quick video here. So not a 7 or 8 part series I think we're up to now on this, to give you how it comes together. So we talked about quite a bit in the last few weeks, but I'm going to start at the front again, because last week this didn't have it. This is the cup style nose cone. It's now got its stripes. It's earned its stripes, which look very, very smart. Now, we can supply these in kit form. You can fit them yourselves. It's pretty hard to show you how to fit them. You know, we have a company that actually comes and does it with us. We fit them. They look fantastic. We also mesh here for IVA, and in this section here, which you can do as an option. You don't need that, but if you don't do it, you need to put a little rubber U-trim in this section here. Otherwise, that classes as a sharp edge and will foul IVA. Now, on the front, let's talk about the face and the eyes of the car. So we fit the radiator brackets here. We actually just painted it over, and this is the nose cone fixings. 2 fixings here and here, which fit on the base side, which I'll show you here. Just underneath, 2 little M6s. Now, the headlights have gone in. There is a wiring plug here, depending which loom you're using. If you're using our new loom, it's a plug and play and the colours all match. If it's the Mazda loom, they are a different completely connector, but you can wire them in, and it runs up here and into the indicator is built in to the headlight bracket, which pushes in, and 2 wires run through and up and down. It basically joins up with the headlight wiring in here. These bolt on. Now, when you do these headlights, just in here we also put, can't see it now because we're trying to do it, but there is a spacer between the nut and in here. There's a little 19mm spacer that we have that goes in there. It allows you then to make adjustment nut, and then these little rubber covers go over for IVA, because otherwise this would be a sharp edge. So while we're on sharp edges, don't forget trimming the mud guards. These have all been done, glued in, little U-trim that goes on there, making sure you trim those. They class as a sharp edge. And then you've got other areas like this here where you have to have a cable tie over the nut to make sure you get rid of any sharp edges. So anything that's covering here that you can touch with your fist, so to speak, or make a fist that you can touch, pretty much cover it with trim and in that section or areas. Now, moving on to the other side, this is just replicated on this headlight bracket, which bolts on through this suspension pickup point, and we spoke about that before, making sure you use a 75mm bolt on this particular bracket, not the 70 that's used each wear. Right, what we do, moving on to the middle of the car now. Now, last week when we showed you, the seats were fitted in, seat pads, but we've also fitted the seats harnesses. These are pretty much a bolting affair. It's a 7/16 UNF bolt that bolts in 1, 2, 3 and 4, but making sure that you cover up in this part here. We supply these little witches top hats, as we call them, little covers that cover it up, and if you don't use them, you've got to make sure that you trim with a rubber cover and all of this area, because that does come under the clearances of 2.5mm radius for IVA. Now, the steering wheel, there's a couple of areas you need to look at and making sure you address if you're fitting this. Is number one is making sure you have a collapsible steering wheel boss. This is for IVA. This is hollow inside there, it presses in, and it's pretty much a bolt-on affair that comes on with this one, picks up on the Mazda steering column, and then you can wire in your horn through this centre section here, which we've still got to do on this particular one, but there'll be a press button with a wire that runs through, because this, when it rotates with it all, has a pickup in it as well, which will come off of this wire and this plug in here, and there's a little green wire that runs up for it. So steering wheel bolts on, and then this is all compliant then for IVA being collapsible, and the second part being, which will be the modified part which we spoke about before, excuse me, which is the collapsible link bar, which is your modified Mazda one. Right, next up is the bonnet, which we've now fitted the bonnet clips to. Now, these are fitted in place with 2 little 4mm rivets that go through the fiberglass and out the other side. These do fit pretty well, but if you're really unsure, you can put a little washer behind here to help it and strengthen it as well. And then it's, once you've done your mock-up, you've got your bonnet in place, but also same in here, 2 little 4mm rivets that fit into here. Normally this top one lines up perfectly just around and under the box section area here and here, but once this bonnet's in place, these click and lock. But you've got to remember, for IVA you need the rubber cover set that covers these up. So we do those, and we're available online as well. Then we move on, while we're in this area, to the exhaust system. couple of different variations on here. So if you've got this is a Mark 2.5 and you're not running our loom and manifold and everything else, then this catalytic converter you do need for IVA. And we also do a D-cap pipe, so if you're going to use a car a bit more on track and you don't want a cap, we do this section as a D-cap. But the 2.5, normally the manifold doesn't have a lambda sensor, which is down in here on it. It's actually had it elsewhere in the exhaust, so we've used this one for it. And also you'll have a warning light if you're using a stock ECU come up if you don't use it. So you will need to have on the 2.5 a lambda sensor welded in here and here, because you'll have a pre-cat and an after cat on it if you're running the stock management system. If you're running the aftermarket with the ME and everything else, it doesn't matter. You just got the one lambda sensor, which is either on the exhaust system anyway, and it will just run the engine quite nicely. But on the 2.5 you will need two lambda sensors that get picked up, otherwise you just get a warning light come up on the dashboard. Moving on there, this is all compliant for IVA, normally makes about 93, 94 decibels. They're quite nice and they're raspy, but quite enough. 99 decibels is the normal requirement for IVA at 3/4 of your maximum power. And then we're going to move on to this centre section here, which is the dashboard. Now, we have trial fitted and fitted all of this in. You can see here we've got the holes in the dashboard. We evenly space this out in here with the 200mm, which we spoke about the other week, and once it's all on. And then riv nuts, these are aluminium riv nuts that we've used, not steel ones, aluminium riv nuts. Steel ones seem to be too aggressive and can crack the fiberglass, so make sure you use a Ali one. And then once this is in, the instrument cluster is bonded in. Now what we've done on this particular one, normally you can, on the manual it just tells you to bond this in. You can just bond it in all around this area, sticking it in with the same material that we use for bonding the floor panels and interior panels, which is a Tiger Seal or Worth Adhesive Silcaflex type of product that we use. We use Tiger Seal as well, but we've actually bonded in a nut on a washer here, and we've actually been able to bolt that in a couple of locations. This one's off at the moment, but we've bonded that in a couple of locations just with a nut on a washer, and then we can remove it if need be. Now the wiring then is plugged in here, which goes up to the new loom, and we're just doing a little earth join here, which we'll put in the manual. And once that's in, there's a couple of other areas you've got to do. We're just putting the hazard switch in, which we're going to put into this location. Because you haven't used the stock management and loom, normally the hazard switch will be down here on the stock loom and a little casing we do. And that's bolted on then with just little M4, you can use M5, M4 and M5 bolts to hold it all in place with the steering column and the shroud. Right, while we're down in the interior looking at the brakes and everything else, in this area here, the pots on here, you have your brake pots. Don't forget you will need the float levels that go in there. So we replace these standard caps that come in with these brake ones. These have that on there, and making sure you've got your .4 sticker on there within 150mm of the pots. These need to be going, and we've got our wiring just tucked up here ready for that. These just plug onto it, and these two chambers here. You don't need nothing on the clutch, it's just the front and rear brakes. Now we're going to talk about rear vision mirrors. This is a centre mirror. This is actually just stuck on at the moment. We are going to be doing some other things after I get it stuck on. Adjustable mirror. You need one centre and the two passenger mirrors, which you can get away with others, but for IVA purposes we always say left and right mirror and the centre mirror. We use these brackets because we've been bolting on a windscreen afterwards and changing it all over to a different kind of setup for this particular customer, but making sure that you can see these in a field of vision. Now these can be attached onto the bodywork into a high location up here, because you need to be able to see this and pass your rear view mirror, rear view ring, sorry, even the mirror to fit past here. You don't want to be able to see the top of that, because there is a measurement that goes out, which is I think it's 9 meters out and 2 meters this way. So you go 9 meters that way and then 2 meters, and there'll be a white line mark that you need to visually see. Those are in the manuals, and we give you it as a guide anyway. So making sure that these are secured, attached, and also if there's any trim or sharp marks, edges on the mirror, that they are fixed and trimmed in place so there's no sharp edges. Right, that's it for so far as we are. Next week we're going to go on with looking at next time actually we're talking about first start, and then we'll also be talking about some good base geo setup. So make sure you subscribe to that, and then you can follow out and we'll give you some guidance on A, starting procedures, and B, the geo of the car. That's it guys, hope you like what you're doing so far. Any questions on this particular model or any of the other models, drop it in the comments below. We're happy to help. Like, share, subscribe, and guess what, guys? We will catch you next time.